All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Vin. I'm a student assistant here at the Mason University program at Cal State East Bay. And welcome to session 3 of Vinny's and Peter's course on basic JavaScript to building a REST API. Right. So do a recap of session 2. We learned how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript work together. And we also went through the HTML and the JavaScript aspect of the sticky note project, as well as a little bit of CSS. And for today, we're going to be finishing up on that sticky note project. And at the end, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, not with AI, but just as important with software development. And now I'm going to give it to Peter.
Okay, everyone, allow me to say things. Okay, so let me share my screen real quick. All right, so hopefully my screen is visible. So to recap what we did yesterday, we were just trying to follow our Figma design, so this one, and we are basically finished with the functionality of and the HTML of the page. Now we just have to like polish to make it look closer to what we expect here, right? So to follow up from some feedback of what people said yesterday on the Flexbox, right? So I think it might make more sense to get into the explanation of what Flexbox really is, right? Like the CS in our CSS we have this thing, right? Display flex at line number 18 right here, and then flex direction, right? And this might sound like very cryptic to people, right? Like what the heck is this display flex does? So today I'm gonna go ahead and delve deeper into kind of the explanation of this Flexbox, and then we're gonna finish the remaining tasks of our styling code here, right? So to get started, this about Flexbox, right? So hopefully people can see this clearly. If not, then I can just zoom in a little bit more. Okay. All right. So to talk about Flexbox, imagine this is your screen, right? So your screen, default, and this is true for every browser, like Chrome, Firefox, or over the website, are divided into 12 columns, right? From 1 to 12 right here, right? So every time you place an element, if you set up this display, this line right here, display flex, your screen will be divided into this column, right? Into 12 column right here, right? And then you place an item, I see that there's 3 boxes here, right? They will be placed like into this column right here. Now, what we want to do is, now the problem is, like, if you place element like this way, right? Not all the time you want, all the elements to be placed on one single line, right? Like sometimes you want things to place, in place vertically, right? Like this, everything aligned on the same axis, on the same vertical axis, but not on the same line, right? So the question is, how do you do so, right? Like in our example here, when we have some nodes here, right? We don't want it to align horizontally. We want them to align vertically, right? So how do we do that? So the answer is Flexbox allow you to do so with just a couple of lines of CSS code. So this line right here, display flex, it's apply this Flexbox rule to your web page, and then you set the flex direction as column. So in this case, all the element will display in one straight line, right? As a one thing about this, are they all gonna be shuffled? They're gonna be shoved into one single column, aligned all together right here, right? And so we would have this flex direction right here, And this, if you set the flex direction is equal to row. All right, let me place here, and then I can kind of zoom in. There we go. Flex direction, if you do flex direction row, all the elements with that under that are the children of this element right here will be placed on one single horizontal line, right? They will align horizontally together, right? And if you set the flex direction is column, right? There will be placed vertically like this right here, right? Just two simple line, right? Now the thing is how, let's say that I place the element flex direction a row, set all the element align on the same thing here. The common kind of puzzle is, well, how do we align the element? Let's say if I want to place this in the middle of a web page, right? Which is very common for the use case of many web page out there, right? I want to place this in the middle. What do I do? So that's when something called justify content comes in, right? So let me align this so it looks kind of more clean. There we go. So that's what this justify content center does. That's line number 23 right here, right? Let me type it here. So it's justify content center, right? So what it does is that, on your web page, whichever the axis line is, right? So if the first section is row, the axis line will be this line, this green line, right? It will be like if you know a little bit of a math, will be like the OX line, right? Horizontal line. So justify content center, what it does is that whichever axis line you are on, we're gonna place all your element in the middle, right? So that is when the Flexbox system come in very handy, right? So what it does is it will see there's 12 and we will divide, and then it will calculate all the gap on the left side and all the gap on the right side. Well, in this case, might not be the best example because typically we have like in between we have like 4.5 instead of like 5, right? But I think you get the idea of like thing, right? So like it will divide all the 12 columns and it do the math, right? What is the size of our elements right here versus the screen, and it will place it in the middle, right? It will make sure that the gap on the left and the gap on the right are the same. So that's justify content center, right? So now if I change this to flex direction column, right? What is the difference? Of course they would also align on the same line, but applying that with justify content center, they will stay in the center, but on the vertical side of your screen, right? So basically, justify content center, what it does is whichever axis that your elements are aligned to, from this property, that's a center property, right? I'm going to place it in the middle of that axis, right? So whether it's the vertical axis or the horizontal axis, it will be placed in the middle accordingly. So yeah, I hope that makes more sense on what Flexbox is and does. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand or leave it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. Okay. So if no one have a question, and then if you run into any like issue, feel free to stick with us after like the session. We can have breakout room to help you. So yeah. So I hope that decrypt a little bit about like what are these like from line number 17 to 24, what this thing does, right? The goal is we want to place our element in the middle of the screen, and that's what it does. Okay, so let's continue with our code. So I want to make sure that everybody has the editor ready. Today's session, we're gonna finish our the remaining part of our styling. So if you have not yet, please open your VS Code to editor, and then turn on this our code from yesterday, the directory of our code yesterday. So there we go. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. And before that, while we're doing that, now let's take a look at our design, right? We have a couple of things. We have this button right here, right? And we have this kind of like header icon right here for the notes, right? And this is some of the images that we want to that we need to change to our style, right? So I will create a Dropbox link, and I will share with you all right here in the chat. So I will drop this link in the chat real quick. And then this will contain all the two files that we will need to style our web page. So here, let me drop it down in the chat. Okay. And then in the meantime, can you share this link to our Discord as well? In the Dropbox, the Dropbox links. And let me know if it's accessible. Otherwise, I can give it another try. So you should download it. It should be like download all the files in the folder and then place it with the same directory of your code that we was doing yesterday. They contain the icons and the note icon that we needed to finish the web page. All right. And once people have already done so, please give me a thumbs up so to make sure that we are on the same page. Okay. Vin, is the link accessible? The box? Okay. Great. So please make sure if you download it, whether it's a zip file or it's these two files right here, please place them into the same directory of the code, right? So that your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file can access it. Okay, so far so good. And if anybody having an issue with that, please let me know as well. We will happy to help you. Okay, and I also create to help people like easily kind of navigate between different like function in JavaScript and different meaning of components. I also create a cheat sheet. So let's see if we can place a file in the chat, or I can just share it within a Discord channel. So give me 1 second. All right, I just shared the cheat sheet with you in the campus engineer channel, and I will share that in the Mesa channel as well. So those are just some very simple cheat function that we've been going through so far, and then it kind of help people easily memorize them if we have the cheat sheet ready. So I figure I just created them. All right, so let's go back. And these are some very simple function we have done so far, right? Like create element and get element by ID, and some the the description of them. So hopefully it's helpful to navigate through. And these are all the functions that we're going to use today. Okay. All right. And if no one is facing any issue, I think we're gonna go back to our session. Okay, so here is our code, right? And this is our browser right here. So what we see is missing so far, right? The first is, submit button. It should align on the rightmost side of our text editor box, right? And then now it's in the middle, so we don't really want that. Okay, so let's fix it first. All right, so text editor, now we navigate through it. We have this submit button right here, right? And we want this to align on the left, on the right. We have this, we already wrap it within this send node container right here, right? Now we need to update our styling. So let me place this on the side so people can kind of reference it. There we go. Okay. All right, so hopefully it's easier for people to see. Now we have this send node container, right? And remember this is an ID, right? So I need to select this send node container first. Send node container, and then I need to realign it, right? So I can just say text align. Oops, text align, and then I want this to be align on the right side instead of center. So I would do text align right. Let's give it a try. Okay, so I just refreshed my browser and now it's on the right side, just as we wanted, right? Now another thing, if you look back in our design right here, we want this to be, first, it should be like a circle, right? And we want this to be an arrow. So that's why that's the image that we had, right? So we're gonna apply some changes here into our HTML. Let's move this on the side. There we go. Okay, so instead of submit, I want to delete this thing right here. And instead of submit, it should be an image. So I want to, in HTML, to put an image, you do the image component right here. All right, and then you're going to link to the image. So our image here is icon arrow right.png. So we're going to do /icon arrow right. There we go. And another thing is we want this to be a circle, right? So I want to select the send node button. So let's go back to our send node button right here, and let's go back to our CSS. And let's see, we have not have send node button yet. So I want to create another selector called send node button. And then for this, I want the border radius to be 50%, right? And this 50% will make the item circle, right? So let me refresh it. Okay, so it looks might not be the most perfect yet. So I'll maybe we had to add some change here. So the background color should be gray, and maybe add some padding there as well, right? So send node button, the padding will be 5 pixel, and then also the cursor when we hover into this, right? Right now it's not like a pointer. We want it to be a pointer, so we're gonna do cursor pointer. right? And if we refresh the page, now we kind of have it. All right, maybe gray is not really like a perfect color. I'm gonna comment this out. Okay, that looks kind of better. Maybe we're gonna change the color later. But yeah, now it's kind of closer to our button right here, right? So let's move on to some other components. The next thing is when I create a note, right? Let's say, hi, this is Miss Yu. Click a note. Now, what you see, we want it to be this kind of curvy kind of notepad, right? But it not showing yet, right? It's like a bullet point. So the reason is right now we're having a list, right? Underneath this UL an order list right here, we have a bunch of like li thing, right? And then li elements, and by default they will be styled as bullet points. So that is why they show up like this. So to change this, first we go to our CSS, and then what we can do is we can select the notes, right, which is our another list right here, and then with the greater than greater than mark right here, and then you point to li, right? Because remember, in our CSS, we created the li components, right? So we want to use this notes. What this statement does is that let me write some comments. For all the list element within notes, style them, right? So that this is what this selector does, the greater than, you have the notes and you select the li element. So the styling, all the styling within this bracket will be applied to the list element, right? And then I don't want the dot right here, so I will revoke them by using this style and this style type, and then I would type in none, right? So that should, if you refresh it and you create like add more, yeah, they should go away. So list type is none, right? And then another thing, if you can see, is our text now is aligned at the middle, and we don't want that. We want it to align at the beginning of our list, right? So we can do text align, and remember we have left, center, or right. So this is left, and then also we add a little, because we don't want every single node to be too close together. We add margin bottom to 20 pixel, right? So now let's refresh our page and take a look. There we go. Okay, so we now have something, right? We have this node right here. There's still something missing from our design, right? We want first we want our nodes here to have the border around it, and want to add some color into them, right? So let's add the border. So what you kind of realize is where you have the border, curvy border around the text editor, right? And we want to apply the same thing. All right, hold on. We have question CSS for the button when you get a chance. Okay, so yeah, for the button, let me resign this. Send note button. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna delete this part. There we go. So this is the styling for the send note button. We have padding, cursor, and the border radius. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. All right, so we can continue. Okay, so we were talking about like applying this border right here, right? This curvy border right here of the text editor to our notes right there. So the way we do that is maybe we can employ, we don't have to like write a new like CSS, right? The way we do that in CSS is we're using class. So maybe in our script right here, let's go back to our script.js. We can write some new we can add the class of that container to our script right here. Okay, so let's do new node right there. Is we're gonna add a new style to it, so we can do new node dot style, and then we set a height for it. So let's say we want our each of node to be height of 150 pixel. Okay, so we just assign this, right? There'll be a string, and if you look closely, this is just the CSS. Like this is what we have right here, right? Maybe a different properties, but they are CSS. Whatever in new node.style, it's just our CSS properties and value. We like direct line by line, and then we want this new node style dot background color to be, because we want our node to have different colors, right? Like we don't want them to be monotone, like just text editor, right? Just like a blank screen that will look a little boring. So we have a function here called get random color. So I want people to define this function called get random color. All right, I will leave maybe split it on the right so people can kind of reference it. So this is our get random color function on the right. This function will be called by our line number 27 right here within our set node, because we're gonna assign a random color to our new node element, right? So we're gonna call this get random color. Of course, job's not done yet, right? We still need to implement this. For this color right here, I can paste it in the chat. And remember, I did not memorize this color by any means. These are the hex value of a color. So in CSS, there's multiple ways to represent a color, and one of them is representing by the hex value or the hexadecimal value. And these are just the value that I look up on the internet. Like you can easily look up something like, oh, well, let me paste this first so people don't have to like type it out by hand. I feel bad if you have to. There we go. Yeah, so those, you can just copy paste them. I will be very happy. So copy paste them and assign them to color right here. So, and I did not memorize this color on my own. I searched it up on the web. So like, let's say you search up like color, hex, codes, red, a bunch of them will show up right here, and you just simply like look it up and then find whichever color that you find like appealing or fit to your page, and you paste it there. There's no like, yeah, there's no memory needed for that part. Yeah, just to simply look whichever color you like and paste it there. And these are happen to be our choice. Okay, so I'll leave it there so people can reference it. All right, so we could call this get random color and assign it to background color, right? Because we want each of our node to have a certain color. And now back to the border part, right? We want our element to have the border of this text editor, what we do. So going back to our, let's take a look in our editor right here, right? And hopefully the people already finished this part, or yeah, you do need to finish the get random color function, and that's what we're gonna do later. So we left, I left this part here on purpose. Yep. So, okay, so container. So we see the text editor, right? This is our text editor right here. There we go, text editor there. And we have the class of container and inner container, right? They have all the properties of like curvy and the border. And now we want to have this in our node as well. How do we do that? Do we like write a new like CSS, some new CSS like properties right here? No. The thing is, the beauty of a class is, well, you can each element can share classes, right? And for the classes, you can style them. You can define the style applied to a certain class. So in this line right here, let's go back to our code. Well, hopefully people already finished this getter and color, so we can kind of take this out and give us some space. Let me know if you still need to reference it. I can drag it later. But let's put it on the side here so we have more space for our main code. Okay, so now we want to apply that class to our new node components, right? What we do is we do new node dot class list, and then we do add. Oops, looks like I make a typo here. New node class dot classlet add, and then we want to add the container. All right, and now this every time that we create a note, let's refresh our page. Hi. Oops, still still missing something. So let me check. We might have not have missing some CSS. Okay, so there's another thing. Maybe we have not started the inner container yet. Yeah, we don't have the inner container yet. That's what we need to add as well. Okay, so we do a little debugging here. We have container, but we don't have the border. That's what we're missing. Okay, so one way we can style is maybe we can set a border 1 pixel, so let's like right here, and then let's do a refresh. Oh, there we go. Okay, so not like perfectly what we wanted, but maybe there's some bug on the fly there. But that's a way to kind of mirror it. Okay, and then now we can add, we can update our styling with the inner container. So let's go back to, let's create a new classes called inner container, and then add some update right here. So for the inner container, we want the width to be 60%, right? Because right now it looks kind of big. It looks kind of huge here. And then we want the height to be 150 pixel. All right, so let's refresh our page. Okay, so now it's look better. But there's still things that missing, right? We want it to be in the middle, and now it's not in the middle. So let's go back to. Oh, all right. I'll leave some time for you all here to type. I realize I might have gone a little too fast. So what we just did is we dot in a container, and then we add the width and the height to it. Okay. And feel free to let me know if I need to go back to it at any point. All right. So moving on, we want that to be in the middle of our screen, right? So let's go back to our inner container, to our HTML right here, and maybe we should change something with the editor. So go back to our CSS editor, right? So clearly right now our editor is not in the middle. So it's not aligning in the middle. So what we can do is maybe adding well, some flex center. Okay, so we have rows, we have okay. Let me live debug here. There's something wrong with the CSS. It's a way not the most fun part, but oh, display block. Okay, so that's something we may need to fix. Because remember, when we mentioned about this, the flex box, right? We need two properties. We need display flex, and we need justify content center. So if I apply this to display flex, and this is just me testing, so you don't have to follow directly. Display flex. There we go. So it looks like it does the job. If we do display flex, it does stay in the middle. Okay. So maybe we're missing that in our editor. So we should set our editor to display flex. Okay, so we can go back to our CSS here, and then let's go to our editor and then display flex. And let's see if it does the job. Okay, not yet. Oops. Okay, so just delete this. And then we have a row and we have a flex center. So let's go to our row. We don't have a row yet. That's the problem. So we already have the column, right? But we have not defined a row. So we have to apply some styling on the row class, and that wise is complaining. So let's do display flex direction row. Okay, and let's try to refresh our page. There we go. So it does the job. I will put this there so people can see just these 4 lines. This dot row and display flex, and the flex direction should be row. So that's when the justify content center will be applied to our element here. All right, so yeah, so far so good. Okay, so what next we need to do is we need our styling to our node underneath here, right? So say hi. Okay, so it looks like this, and it's now kind of a little bit huge, and we don't want that. So let's go back to our node, and we want this to have the styling of inner container as well. So we're gonna go to our new node right here, our script, and then we're gonna do new node dot class list, and also add inner container. There we go. And if we hit refresh, it should also do the magic. Oh, I made the wrong habit again of going a little too fast. So I'll pause here for you to copy. So this line chain, script.js, line number 29, new node dot classnet dot add in a container. Okay, and so if we refresh the page, it should do its job. Okay, so now it's kind of does, but it's not staying in the middle. So we need to stay in need it to stay in the middle. So let me inspect it. Okay, it's display block, and that is also the problem. So what we can do is we can add some styling to our note as well. So we can do something like notes, imagine 0, padding 0, and then display flex and flex direction column, and justify content will be center. So yeah, from line number 64 to 70. Add the margin, add the padding to 0, set the display to flex direction will be column, and justify content will be center. So let me hit refresh and give it another go. Oops. Okay, so we're having an issue with our still having an issue with our styling. So let's see. Okay, so there's some error with the list right here that we need to fix. Okay, so just give me 1 second. I need to double check on this. All right. So if you just that was a 5 minutes of horror. If you what you're seeing is just like basically like uncut version of what is being a software engineer is, but basically I found the bug in my old code. So okay, so what next we need to do is first let's delete this line at number 29, classmate add inner container. We don't need this. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is we had the in the send note. Oh, the notes right here. Let's just keep it with margin is 0 and padding is 0. So yeah, we don't need the extra. Okay, and also this border right here, we probably don't need that. So let's give it another try. Oops. Okay, sorry. Let's keep that. My bad. So yeah, let's keep this line right here at line number 74. Border 1 pixel solid black. And last but not least, we need to add some classes to our session of the nodes. So remember when we used to have these classes as empty, we want to add a row to this classes to this class list. So at the session nearest to nodes, please add row and flex center to the node, to the class list. And then within the node group element, we want to add the class into the inner container into the class as well. And then within the node header, remember to add the row in there. So that's just all the thing you need to do. In the node, in the session, near the node, as the class row and flex center. In the div element with the ID nodes group, add the inner container. And in the div with the ID nodes header, add the class row. And that's it. All right, and if we now refresh the page and let's say add a node here, it should does the job of what we want. Okay, so next thing is, as you can see, this is blank, right? And then we want it to be like this beautiful color right here, right? So what we need to do is we need to finish our function, which is to get random colors right here, right? So and then later on we're going to call this function, right? We're going to call this function at line number 27, new node dot style background color equal to get random color, right? So okay, so we need to return something here. And then so now looking at our spreadsheet, sorry, our cheat sheet, we have a cheat sheet, right? There's two functions that we can use from this: math.random and math.floor. I need to, given this array right here, array colors, I need to take I need to return a random element out of it. How do I do so? What I can do is I can just return, and I can do colors, right? And then this should be a random index, right? To get this random index, I can do math.floor. Inside it, math.random times color, times colors dot length. There we go. And it should does the job. Okay, so let me explain this code, right? So math random, take a look at our cheat sheet. What it does, returns a random floating point number, x that where x is greater than or equal to 0 and x smaller than 1, right? So, and in this case, and we time this with colors.length, right? And in this case, colors.length is equal to 6, right? So basically, we take a number x, where x times 6, colors.length is equal to 6, where 0 is greater than equal, smaller than or equal to x, and smaller than 1, right? So from this math, right, we will get our result. We'll guarantee result will be between 0 and 6, right? So like what I'm saying is the result will be let's say y, where y is smaller than or equal to y is greater than or equal to 0 and smaller than 6, right? This math will guarantee it, right? And then since this is a floating point number, we do math.floor to kind of route it down so that we can get the index from 0 to 5, and this will be a random index, right? And then we return this colors. So yeah, hope that makes sense. And let me know if you have any question regarding this part of getting a random colors, right? We have a series of colors. We pick a random number from 0 to 1, times it with colors of length to get a random number from 0 to 6 in this case, where 6 is not included. Route it down, so it's in an integer because index must be an integer, and we get a colors at that index, right? Okay, so hope that makes sense. And well, let me know if you have any question as well. Let's go back to our get random color function right here. Now we already implement it, right? It's now we can call it. Let's go back, refresh our browser, and say by Red Bull. Enter. There we go. Okay, now we have something look more kind of nice, right? We can say exam next week, right? We get same color. What if we have another note called drink coffee? There we go. We get a new color, right? So since it's random, the two color next to each other can be the same. So that's kind of not what we wanted. But I'll keep this part as like the extra the extension for this project, right? So you can maybe think of this and find a solution where how can I make sure that two colors stay in the same next to each other are not the same, right? That'll be the take home for you. But okay, so now we have this. It looks kind of closer to what our design here, right? It looks not bad. There's one thing that we're missing is we're missing the node icon right here. If somebody have an eagle eyes, they would kind of like nitpick me on that. So let's come back to our HTML right here, and then let's add it. So go back to our notes. We need to add another element. So we can do image, and source will be node icon, underscore icon dot png, and the width will be 40, and the height will be 40 as well. Okay, now let's refresh our page. All right, so now we have it exist right here, but they kind of stay close to each other, right? We want some gap. This is too narrow, right? We want some nice gap in between. How do we do that? We can go back to our, all right, so I'll leave some time here for people to reference. And we can go back to our style, right? So we need to add a gap in between them. And the way we do it is we can create something called notes header, and then add a gap properties and just do 10 pixel. Okay. Right. Now let's go back to our web page and try to hit refresh. There we go. So we have some gap here, which is look kind of nicer, right? More nice and dandy. All right. So we basically finished the fundamental of our projects, right? I will give some time for people to have question. The next part will be we'll focus on some deployment of this project, how we can make this project displayable on the web. But I'll give some time for a question. If you don't have a question, please feel free to raise your hands or leave it in the chat, and I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so I guess moving right along. The next part is also a pretty fun part as well. Is how can we deploy this? We have a web page, right? But it exists in our local, and well, of course, it's nice, cool, but people don't see it, right? How can we? Let's say if you are a job interview, which the requirement is, hey, show me that you know fundamental of web design, right? Of a front-end element, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You might say you know it, but the better way to show it, to demonstrate it, to show some work, right? Show, don't tell. So I want to guide you to maybe upload this your local work right here to somewhere on the web, right? So to do that, we use a third-party tool called Vercel, and I will drop this link in the chat. So you should go there. And is there anybody that doesn't have a GitHub account? Please raise your hand. We can create a breakout room and then have you create one. But I highly recommend to have a GitHub account, because there you can put your code on the web and people can see it, or you can also use that to log into all the service, which is very nice and dandy. Okay, so it looks like everybody have a GitHub account. What we would do is we would continue with GitHub. Click on this option right here, and it will authenticate. If you have not have an account, it will prompt you to create an account. In my case, I already had an account. I just have it show up here. Now, I'm gonna deploy something. All right, to do that, I guess I'll leave people some time to create an account first, if you have not done so. So yeah, let me know. Please give me a thumbs up in the reaction if you have finished creating an account for Vercel. All right. Okay, so I'll give people some time, and I guess in the meantime, I'll maybe stop sharing and play some music so people can not, or maybe we can just leave it for people some time.
Wait, Peter, if we're waiting, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So my photo for the next to the notes, like the thing that's really big. And I tried to do image style like with height, but it's still not going to the right place. Like it moved over the notes, like
Oh, I see.
text
I see.
completely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can help you later in the breakout room.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Start learning the markets.
Okay, so if anyone still creating an account for Vercel, please give me a thumbs up if you have not finished it. Otherwise, I think we can continue. Okay, so if you go back to your VS Code, right? First thing you need to do is there should be a source control icon here, below the search icon. And click on source control. In this case, I already have a repo, but if you have not have it yet, there should be a button to ask you to initialize it. And then when you click on initialize the repo with Git, you can commit to it. And then it will ask you to make some commit from. So we can say like, for you, I think it should be first commit. For me, it's updated the final code. So add the changes. You see the change here. There's a plus button. Click on it for all the files, and then hit commit, and it should synchronize your code. Okay, and for me, this is sync changes, but for you, it should be publish branch, and it will ask you to publish your code to GitHub. And it will ask you to create a name of your repository, and you can just put any name like sticky notes or whatnot, and it will publish there. So you should see a GitHub. And I would recommend making it public because well, there's high chance it give you more visibility, and if later you want to show it to your doing like a job interview or something, people can access it without like much of a hassle. Okay, so please give me a thumbs up in the reaction if you have finished like creating your repository. All right, I'll give you some minutes to publish the code on GitHub. But yeah, once you publish the code on GitHub, you should see a repository on GitHub. And in my case, it's this one right here, right? We have a GitHub repository. And then if we go back to our friend Vercel, right? In here to link this to deploy my code from GitHub to Vercel, we click add new, and then for that we click add new project, right? And the nice thing about login to Vercel with GitHub, and the reason why I really insist people on doing so is that it lists all the code here, all the project here on your GitHub, right? So that you can deploy it, right? It lists everything here. And then let's do our most recent one should be that one. And then since this is not really a template, you don't choose any template, import it. Okay. And among all the setting, there should not, because this is a very simple HTML, CSS, JavaScript project, there should not be any framework preset or anything. You add a project name to it. In this case, I would choose a default name, and you click deploy. Take a couple of seconds. but it should be quick because this is an HTML. This is a very simple project. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, our deploy is done. And then you can click add domain, and in here you should see the domain, right? So if you hit this kind of arrow button right here, click on it. There we go. Now it exists on the web. You can put it on your resume or wherever that you want to show people, like maybe in a career fair or something. And then, well, this is mine, and I'm sure it's accessible by all the people, like without going to my local computer, right? So yeah, basically you have like a project ready to be shown on the web, right? To your future recruiters or to your employers. Yeah, so that is a part of that's for sale. And then if people have any trouble with like any process, any step along the side, then feel free to stick around and I'll answer any questions. I want to close this kind of session today with something that really fun that you can play around with. And this is why I really, really love the web. Okay, so let's go to any random website. Let's do maybe Google. Okay, let's go to Google, right? And now, if you remember last time we opened the console. So I'm going to open the console of the browser. So on Mac is Command Option I. On Windows is F12. So you see the console here, right? And then I'm going to do something like document.design mode equal to on. Yeah, document.design mode is equal to on. All right, everybody follow so far? Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Now it's on, right? Okay, now we can try some magic. I don't like this thing to be stored, right? I want to change it to maybe Google Plus, or let's change it to, oops, peer launch. There we go. If I don't like this to be about, I can change this to sticky note. And if I don't like this to be Google, oops, it looks like I can type something like, Mesa U for campus engineer search. This is a very fun thing that I discovered recently, and you can play around with the web. Any web page, not just Google. Any web page, your web page, my web page, doesn't matter. And you can play around with it. I can change this to maybe Thanksgiving is coming. This feature allows you to like preview the content on a web page without any web page, without even publishing anything. So yeah, I hope that's a little fun for you to play with, on the web. And then yeah, we just finished the sticky note project, and I'll stick around for any questions.
All right, well, that was the end of session 3, as well as the end of the sticky note project. In our next session, we will be going over the OpenAI API and integrating that into the sticky note project. So what you guys made, make sure to save it. We're actually going to be still using that again. And then ideally, after integrating the OpenAI API, we're going to be going into a little deep dive into what APIs are, and especially REST APIs, to prepare you guys for, the REST API project. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this session. Thank you guys for coming. I'm gonna end recording now.